Hi everybody, Matt here from Matt Likes Comics. And today I thought I would go back a little bit to the Superman, but specifically I wanted to show you Superman covers by Neal Adams. Neal Adams is one of the best artists out there. Just about everybody can agree on that. I mean, there is the odd person that doesn't like his style, and that's fine. But a lot of people love Neal Adams. Now, a lot of Neal's career has been covered in a lot of videos. Just off the top of my head, off the search, I got 319 videos dedicated to Neal Adams on YouTube alone, and there's probably a lot more that have mentioned him and or such. But the key is that there's a lot of the videos cover his entire career or other aspects of his career, like the Batman or the Green Lantern books, or his time at Marvel, or his continuity, or even his thoughts about the Earth. If you want to know what interesting theories look like, look up what Neal Adams thought about Earth, about the whole hollow Earth thing and stuff. I have had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Adams 6 times during Ottawa Comic Con over the years. The last time I saw him, he actually remembered my name, and I thought that was pretty cool. I have spent a bit of money with Mr. Adams over the time. I've got this print here of Supergirl, signed by him personally, as an example of a sort of original art that I've got from him. And I've had a few conversations with the man where I have to admit most of the time was cool, but once or twice left me shaking my head in, what did he just say? Kind of mode. I think if my friend Robert sees this video, he'll know what I'm talking about because he was there. Anyway, I have some of these books have actually been signed by Mr. Adams or Neal, whichever you feel comfortable calling him. It took me 3 or 4 times to stop doing it because he finally went, just call me Neal. So anyway, um, so Neal Adams, like as most people know, started out in newspaper strips. He did Ben Casey. He did the art for Ben Casey for a couple years in the early 60s, and then from there went on to comic books. Now, he started his comic career at DC, and his first book that he did interiors, not covers, interiors, was Our Army at War 182. He did a 6-page story in that book. So Our Army at War 182 represents the first work Neal Adams did for DC. It's not his first work in comics. He did some comic work before the comic strip, but his first regular job was with DC Comics. And so there's always these, I don't want to say arguments necessarily about what was his first work, because a lot of his work was with creepy and eerie in magazines, some cases before DC, some after. So there's always this argument, does that count as comic book work? Does it not? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm not here to argue firsts or not firsts. I'm simply using the first of a certain thing. But let us get on to the covers. These are the covers that I picked. Neal Adams, I didn't pull them all. I pulled out about 20 or so that give you an idea of what he did. These are all Superman comics. By Superman, I don't necessarily mean the title Superman. I mean action, Superman, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, and Superboy. All of them have Clark Kent type associations to it. This, however, was the first Superman cover that Neal Adams did. This is Action Comics 356, and it features a gang. And this was simultaneously, this was the month of November 1967. Simultaneously that month came out a week later, but he did the drawings at the same time. There was Lois Lane's Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 79. So the other one was technically his first because of issue date, but both of these come out the same with the same month cover date. So the rest of the books I'm going to show are in no particular order. They're literally in the pile that I've just put them in, and I'm going to grab them and show them. I have included a couple of his famous ones, though. They will come, and you'll know what I'm talking about when they come up. This is Action Comics 400. In this book, Superman had adopted somebody, and he's the guy at the front, like where he's going, is he man or beast? Because the boy that he adopted ended up turning into some ape-like creature. And I think Neal captured. I like how he drew the ape guy, half ape, half man. Next up is Action Comics 366. I believe this was the first time he drew Supergirl on a cover. And as you could tell by the personal art I have of Neal Adams, I am a big fan of his Supergirl. Now, this here is Action Comic. The next two are a story that in the comic books follow each other, so I decided to go with these two covers. I prefer the second one, but because they're connected, I like them. This is Superman, Guilty of Homicide, Action Comics 358. I remember this more because I've seen lots of ads for it in other books than the actual book itself. But I did read the stories, obviously, long time ago. And this one here is Action Comics 359, the second part of that. This one is the better story. Superman in court. Superman gives himself up for homicide and he allows himself to be tried. And of course, we all know that in the end, he's innocent and all that other stuff. Honestly, they should give Superman a deputization, so just in case he accidentally kills somebody or whatever, he can't be charged. I think he's earned it, but Superman himself would say he's not above the law. The last, one of the last actions I have for now is this one. I featured it recently in another video, but the cover is just so good that I had to bring it back. This is Action Comics 361. He's fighting the parasite. Just look at this cover. You can actually see the black eyes on Superman. And I just think that it's amazing. Like this overall, probably one of my favorite Adams covers of all time. Now, next up, we're going to do a few Superboy issues. This is another one I really liked. Issue number 151 of Superboy, where he allegedly kills Lana Lang. He didn't, but that's beside the point. Next up, we have the Two Faces of Superboy, Superboy 152. I like this one a lot because I like the concept of the Frankenstein when he looks in the mirror. Next one is an issue that I have signed. It's Superboy 161, and I got it to be signed because it was a lighter color. And as you can see, Neal's signature shows up much better. Now, this cover has been on a few places, this next one. It is a Jimmy Olsen book, and it is one of the more, I call it Superman being a big dick covers of all time. This has been shown by at least one person I know out there. But this is Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, number 115, where Jimmy Olsen and and Aquaman are both looking for water, and Superman's being a douche about it. As you can see, I also got this one signed. This is the second book that I ever got signed by him. Now we have a couple more Lois Lanes here, where this is Lois Lane 82, where Lois thinks, oh, they're going to get married and then die. It's a futuristic story that may or may not happen someday, as they say. Next up, we've got Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 91. This comes from the Jerry. This comes from the Jerry pedigree, as you can see. It's written right there, and it's one of the more interesting books because it's got that whole. So she's dating some sort of hunchback. And again, it's a pretty good book. Now, the next one I'm going to show you is one of my favorite books of all time. This is the one with Black Zero in it. This is Superman 205. Now, Kurt Swan did the interiors, as he did in this period when Neal but Neal did a lot of the covers. But this is probably one of my favorite books of all time. And it has a Neal cover, so that comes in nice. Next up, next up is Superman 240. Look at the anguish in his face. He's a little upset. This wasn't long after the this wasn't long after he did the other famous one, which may or may not make an appearance in this video. It's from the same storyline. Here's one of the most famous Neal Adams covers, and from the words of the man himself, he hated doing it because he doesn't like doing photo covers. Action Comics 419. He had drawn a background, he had told me, but they didn't use it, and they used the photo one instead. And he was really annoyed because that wasn't what he was contracted for. At least he got paid for it, but he did a different background, and they completely changed it on him. And he didn't have the original anymore. He'd sold it years and years ago. He'd managed to get it back from DC. This here was the very first book I ever had Neal Adams sign. This is Superman 308. I liked him in the bubble here. It's a second part of a three-part story where Superman forgets. Okay, I should say Superman remembers coming from Krypton, but Supergirl and the rest of the world is trying to convince him that Krypton never existed and that he was just a mutant on planet Earth, as was his cousin. Interesting story. 307, 308, 309. If you want to have something fun to read, that's a good bit to get. The last two are two pretty famous Superman covers. One of them is one of the last covers he did, and one of them is probably the most famous Superman cover he did. This is Superman 233, the infamous Kryptonite No More, where he's breaking the chains because all kryptonite is turned to iron. And it has the big number 1 on it for people to think it was Superman number 1, but it really was 233, and it was just the number 1 best-selling comics magazine, which actually was the truth at the time. There it is, Kryptonite No More. And the last one I'm going to show is one that's very underrated and sells for a lot less than it should. This is Superman 317. This is another famous Neal Adams one. Him glowing in the green, him saying, "The kryptonite implanted in my body will kill me, but before I die, I'm taking you with me." Very angry looking Superman. I love the face on this one. And it's kind of why I saved it for last, because I felt it was the best expression of them all for Superman of all the Neal Adams books. Anyways, that's only a fraction. There are at least, he did at least 80 covers, and that's about a quarter of them. Plus, he did covers for and he did a lot of Superman covers, but he did covers for the Spectre. He did the covers and the drawing for Deadman. Batman he started doing in the late 60s, and so on and so forth. He did some covers for Adventure Comics and the Legion. So like he was certainly kept busy between 1967 and 1972. I think he left for a while and he came back afterwards. But he was very prolific, at least with the covers at the time he was there. He probably did, I think, at one point 19 out of 22 covers on the Superman series, and he did a lot less on Action and Lois and Jimmy, but still a lot. There was quite a few. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little jaunt through memory lane of some of the covers I like. Neal Adams is great, and I will have other videos of some of his other work when I put it together. I'd like to get some of his Marvel stuff, for example, which I don't have any of. Personally, I only have his DC stuff and I think one continuity book. So, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and comment down there. If you have any strong feelings about Neal one way or another, please write them down. Let's have a discussion going in the comments today. My name's Matt, and I love comics, and I like comics too, and I hope you do too.